Simple reality. I have been asked at least 100 times by young men and women, more than 100 times, that one of the biggest controversies that causes doubt in their faith are very trivial issues in the grand scale of things. For example, the age of Aeesha radiallahu anha, when the Prophet married her. This is used by Islamophobes to smear our Prophet. They call him vulgar terms, which I am even embarrassed to say about my Prophet on stage. They call him vulgar terms because he married a young lady. Aeesha was young when this marriage took place. According to all books of seerah, all authentic hadith, she was a young lady. And other Islamophobes say, look at this, astaghfirullah, man, that he did this and that and married a young lady. And our brothers and sisters are confused, like, how do we defend the Prophet? I don't think that's ethically right, what he did. But this question is so easy to respond to. The reason why we are so certain it is unethical and immoral is because the times have changed. And we are back projecting our standards of ethical and moral law onto 7th century Arabia. For the bulk of human history, marriages took place at young ages. Look at the king and queens of Europe when they would intermarry with one another. They would get married sometimes as infants and toddlers, and the marriage would be consummated at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12. The marriage laws of this own country of ours, in every state 100 years ago, marriage law, the age of marriage was in the early teens, 11, 12, 13. Some states to this day, 14 is the lowest age of getting married. For the bulk of human history, people have been getting married earlier than now. Why? Because people biologically and mentally matured faster back then. Too much responsibility. They didn't have the luxuries you guys have of Xboxes and iPhones and iPads and this and that. They matured. They had to work. They had to take care of themselves. Because of that, intellectually and biologically, a 13-year-old of 100 years ago is not a 13-year-old of today. And this is a fact. Shakespeare, when he wrote Romeo and Juliet, look this up, I'm not making this up, look it up. When he wrote Romeo and Juliet, do you know the ages of Romeo and Juliet in the actual play 500 years ago? 14 and 13. Romeo is 14 years old. Juliet is 13 or 12. These are the actors that played Romeo and Juliet. In other words, 500 years ago, 14 and 13 was the equivalent of our 18 and 17 or 19 and 18. If this is 500 years ago, back project 1,400 years ago. Aeesha radiallahu anha never complained that she got married at a young age. She was the happiest, the luckiest lady alive. Now somebody comes along and back projects our standards of morality. Nobody is saying we need to resurrect that now. Nobody is saying a young girl of our time, 9, 10, 11, should be married. I understand, times have changed. But my own grandmother, born in British India at the turn of the century, she got married at the age of 14. And I was a teenager when I found out. And I was like, Daddy, how? 14? How could you get married at the age of 14? And she was like, beta sab log, everybody got married at that age, right? All of my peers got married at that age. You guys think it's weird. This is my own grandmother. This is not like 1,000 years ago. So for us to assume, oh my God, how evil, how immoral that the Prophet married Aeesha when he was young. We need to question the question. We need to contextualize our own problems rather than projecting modern problems onto a system and a culture of 14 centuries ago. And again, Islam doesn't require young girls to get married, but it was something that was allowed and permissible. Even the worst enemies of the Prophet did not find anything problematic. Abu Bakr did not find this problematic. Aeesha didn't find it problematic. Why are we problematizing something that was never a problem? The problem is making it into a problem. It's not actually a problem. And the same goes for so many other questions. So these are the 2 points I want to leave you with. Number 1, study your tradition. Learn your knowledge. If you're not going to become an alim, don't remain a jahil. If you're not going to become an alim, don't remain a jahil. Study something. Learn from scholars. Be connected to the ulama. Know who the ulama are and listen to their experiences and their wisdom. And number 2, question your own tradition as well. Not the Islamic tradition. the tradition you happen to be born into, the dominant narrative, the values of liberalism and whatnot. You know, there are critics from within the system that point out where this is going to lead. Nietzsche himself, in his famous book that he talks about the death of God, read that famous passage. He himself predicts that if you're going to eliminate God from the picture, there is no more morality. There is no up, there is no down, there is no left, there is no right. I.e., if you're going to eliminate God, everything goes